Hi, and welcome to my Margaret's House Bed and Breakfast. Please come in. My name is Alva Jackson. We are in Reedville, Virginia, and this is the home of my grandparents. That's Margaret and Andrew Jackson. And I actually lived here in this house as a child. My parents, when they first got married, they lived with my grandparents. And so they had me and they had my brother. My brother was actually born in this house. And so I was born in 1958. And so I lived here till I was about 4 or 5 years old. And then we relocated to the Washington metropolitan area. But I would always come here for family gatherings and on the holidays and things like that. And so I always had fond memories of this house. And I had visions of coming back here one day and living in this house or doing something with this house. So that's how I got back here.
The only motion you're making is through your elbows. Your body should stay nice and straight.
My name is Marthea Haney. I'm a physical therapist and I'm the owner of Abilities Abound Physical Therapy in Callio, Virginia. So I'm the physical therapist and I have physical therapy assistants. We focus a lot on not just the traditional physical therapy, but also wellness and kind of maintenance programs for after they've finished physical therapy.
My name is PJ Haney. I'm a fifth generation farmer in the northern neck of Virginia. So I'm gonna turn my auto steer on and we're gonna start to move forward. And I'm gonna zoom my position. This tractor is gonna drive itself straight down the field. Okay? The old days I had to drive and the planter would have a marker. That marker would come down and used to try to drive and hold a straight row all the way down the field. Nowadays we rely on the technology that's available to us to help us with that. So this is not Granddaddy's farm, and technology has brought us a long way, and as we strive to be more efficient and more productive, we utilize the technology available to us. I grew up farming, so all of my 41 years after high school, I attended Virginia Tech where I studied agricultural and applied economics. I graduated with a degree in Ag Econ in 1999. I returned home to the family business and have helped to grow and expand it since then. My junior year in college, I had the opportunity to do an internship with a company called ConAgra in Omaha, Nebraska. I went out and I worked on the commodities trading floor, and it was pretty cool working in khakis and air conditioning during the heat of the summer. Wasn't eating dust behind the combine or loading trucks. And however, that year Dad had a need for me to come home and really pitch in. As the oldest of 5 siblings, I had 4 younger sisters who were trying to get into college and came back home to help harvest and finish the harvest that year, and kind of made the decision then that farming is what I want to do.
When I was going to graduate, I told my parents I was going to take one of those, gap years. And they said, no, you're not. You're going to work. And the rule with my parents was if you go to school or go to work on the farm. So all of us have college degrees.
And I'm a software engineer. I work for NOAA in Washington, D.C. And what I do is actually we manage or maintain the ground systems for all of the satellites, all of the weather satellites. Education was very important in my family, even with my grandparents. All of their children were educated, at least the bachelor's. And for instance, like my father's sister, she was an educator. She was a teacher in Northumberland County. She actually attended the Rosenwald School, and all of my siblings are educated, and as well as my father's siblings, they were educated because that was very important. It was not anything that they said you had to do. It was just understood that you weren't you had to get a degree. That was important to get to be successful.
Holly Graded School started not just as a freedman school, but an offshoot. It was a school started by 2 Northern abolitionist ladies, Sally Holly and Caroline Putnam, in 1869. Holly Graded School started out because poor whites and poor blacks in Northumberland County realized one thing. In order for them to survive and do better, they had to educate their children. They didn't want their daughters to work in houses and kitchens, and they didn't want the boys to do manual labor. So education was valued. It was a matter of survival. Sally Holly and Caroline Putnam instilled in their scholars, their young scholars at a very early age, is that it's all about how you carry yourself and how prepared you are. And that carried over all these years, because what they believed in is that if you are educated, education will carry you a long ways.
My name is Philip Johnson Haney II.
And my name is Philip Johnson Haney IV.
We are at Reedville, Virginia, which is the family farm. The farming was started by my great-grandfather, the Reverend Robert Haney, who spent part of his life as a slave, and in 1867 he was the first African American in the area to purchase real estate in Heathsville. That land is currently owned by the family, and we continue to farm it. It is a part of our history and our legacy. I graduated from Virginia State and got accepted into Tuskegee School of Veterinary Medicine. My father's health was beginning to fail, so I made the decision to pursue a career of my heart rather than the money. The veterinarian was money. This was what I loved to do, and I thought about the work and the sacrifices that the generations before me had put in it, and to let it go would be just unthinkable.
I don't think I'm going to be at the same level of farming as my father and my grandfather are. I've certainly been pushed a lot to go into that field of business, but even if I don't necessarily want to work on the fields in the same manner that they do, I still want to keep this land within the family because it's part of our history, and I don't want to let that go, whether I become a farmer or not. But I don't think you've ever really pushed anything on me like a certain career field, but they just want me to be successful and do the best that I can. So a college education, they certainly told me to pursue that, and I plan on doing it.
My kids grew up on this farm, and we had a saying, this is not the Haney Hyatt, not the Haney Hotel. Everybody has to get up out of bed and go to work. And the girls worked in the office. PJ went to the fields, and sometimes the girls would come to the field, and they saw me working.
I always saw my dad working hard all the time. I saw my brother doing that, but there was a period of time after college and before physical therapy school where I worked with my dad and my brother full time for probably 6 months. And I think during that time, I really kind of opened my eyes to the fact of this really entrepreneurship, because I kind of worked side by side with them. My dad even told me, he said, I didn't think you would make it this whole time, but you did a good job.
Well, my grandfather, Papa Andrew, he was a fisherman and he was a farmer, but he also smoked hams for people in the community. So we used to have a smokehouse in the back here, and especially for holidays, he would do hams and smoked meat for the community. My grandmother, she raised chickens and guinea fowl. She would sell her eggs at the local grocery store or country store. My mother, I would say she was an entrepreneur, and she started investing in real estate. And in addition, my mother would see places or see a job, and she would say, I think so-and-so could do this job. And she would encourage people, say, I think you should open a business in this or whatever. I had an uncle that had a concrete company. I had one that had cleaning service, one that had a trucking service. And a lot of those, my mother helped them in some form or fashion. Either she gave them the startup money, or she just said, you can do it, I
look back, my great-grandfather was a slave. My grandfather, who had to be hired out by his parents for income, he had to live in the attic on a farm of white people, and the only time he got to go to school was once he finished crop which was in November, and in March he had to drop out of school and go back in the fields and work. But however, just that little bit of time, he was able to keep up with his classmates because he was self-taught, and he learned how to read, write, multiply, add, and subtract. He learned how to be a carpenter and read blueprints. And my father, who also kept that land and farmed, and he had several jobs. He had to go to work in the commercial fishing industry, work on a fish boat and farm. He had to leave and go to New Jersey to fish, and then he came back, and then he had to work at the fish factories at night to farm. And so it's been a struggle and a sacrifice for us to keep this land.
Amazing grace shall always be my song of praise. Oh, it was grace that brought my liberty.
Mrs. Kelly and her husband were very helpful when I got started farming, as far as advice, and they loaned me equipment, and we currently farm their land now.
I am Lucille T. Kelly. I was born in Baltimore, Maryland, but my mother taken sick and brought me down here to Eastville. At least it was Avalon then. My husband was one of the first black farmers in Northumberland County, because he would get a little piece of land, it wasn't but 3 acres, and farm that. Well, as time went on, he bought a tractor, and then he found out that he just had to get some more tractors or some more equipment for the farm with. So every time he would go to Tappahannock somewhere, he'd come back and he'd tell me, see, he said, you know, said Mervyn and I bought a new combine or a new tractor or a new something for the farm. He said, because you can't farm without nothing. He said, you got to have the equipment to farm with. So I used to tell him, I said, my Lord, will we ever get out of debt? So he said, yes, said, all we got to do is continue to work and pray. So after he got up, he got another tractor. And then he would be on one of the tractors plowing, and I'd be on the tractor behind him. So I used to tell him, I said, well, if you be crazy enough to buy an airplane, I'd learn how to fly that too, because I could use every bit of the equipment that he had.
Because I don't care how smart you are, if you don't have any work ethic, you can't turn that smartness into money.